Yeah, I don't wanna get in the way of that, so,
Okay.
yeah.
I should have worn my Al Capone outfit today.
Well, today's a great day. Thank you all for coming. Thanks to Sean and James and Mike and the staff here. They're terrific. And special thanks to Peter Kulbar.
Thanks, Pete.
Sound? Can we
I
get?
can turn it down. That's on the second floor.
Yeah, I did. Something to put that in.
Female, I always have something. Look away. Oh my God, I'm wearing it in my house
That's
now.
not safe.
It's safe.
It's safe now?
It's safe now.
Okay. That's the glove, that's Wilhelm, Paul Richards.
I can put these up on the
Yeah,
net?
it is. You're right.
Can I put these up on
All right.
Facebook?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Rhonda.
Yeah, Gus Triandis used to go in and get that glove when they bring Wilhelm in.
Knuckleball. Oh, shut.
We'll get a picture of you later, the two of you.
Gus Triandis, the old Gus.
Okay. Great, thanks. It's really a pleasure to be here. It's an honor. This is my third time at the Babe Ruth Museum launching one of my novels, and it's such a special place. And you know, thanks to Sean and James and Mike for all of their hospitality, and a special thanks to Pete Kolbar, who is the backbone of SABR and Babe Ruth. So much appreciated, Peter.
Make sure this is on.
Last time we were here, it was the 50th anniversary of the Babe Ruth Museum, and it was really a thrill to hear all of the speakers talk about Babe and the museum. But the highlight was when my wife and I got to handle Babe Ruth's bat and Shoeless Joe's bat. So a lot of great memories here. Of course, today's Valentine's Day, and I was trying to think of a appropriate baseball connection to Valentine's Day, and it occurred to me that it's V-Day, which essentially is the end of the void between the last out of the World Series and spring training. And now all teams have reported to spring training, so I declare this is V-Day. And who needs Puxatawny Phil when we have spring training? I mean, we know winter is soon to end. I'm delighted to launch my book, Ode to the Baseball Gods, and I'll ask my lovely bride to, well, we won't have to give you a raffle ticket, just, I have 4 raffle prizes, and you will all get a raffle prize. But, so I'm going to talk about the baseball gods and specifically name them because we go through this moaning and whining period when something goes wrong with our favorite player or favorite team. We say, oh, the baseball gods screwed us and the baseball gods, you know, were against us. But there are 5 individual baseball gods that I am going to disclose today. And then I'll talk a little bit about how they impacted a legendary game that was held in 1926 in Hot Springs, Arkansas. So, you know, with that, let's get started. And Babe Ruth said, baseball was, is, and always will be to me the greatest game in the world. And he was right about that. And I gave it a lot of thought, and it occurred to me that the reason baseball is the greatest game is because it pits the pitcher against the hitter. And it's not like basketball or football where you could say, okay, let Michael Jordan take the last shot, or let Saquon Barkley carry the ball. Whoever's up is up, and they have to perform. Now, you might say, well, yeah, but what about pinch hitters and what about relief pitchers? And I say that's true, but it's still the pitcher against the hitter. And I've kind of characterized it using the symbol of yin and yang, that it's the pitcher against the hitter. Some might say good versus evil, depending on your orientation. But that's the symbol that I think really captures the essence of baseball. Now, I was fortunate to find a copy of the Elysian Chronicles, which is the origin book of baseball and the baseball gods and the history of baseball. And it's interesting, and it's quoted in my book, and basically it helps explain the irrational unpredictability of baseball. And throughout history, baseball fans have bemoaned the weird and fickle shifts in the game, how it affects their player, how it might change from pitch to pitch as the winds of fortune change. So I'm here to pull back the curtain and reveal the identities of the specific baseball gods. The first is one of the twins. There are two twins, Bolt and Blast. Bolt is the god of pitching, and he, as his name implies, he's skilled with throwing things with great accuracy. He's tall and lanky with long arms, perfectly formed for throwing objects, and it enables him to achieve incredible accuracy. In contrast to his upper body, he's very thickly muscled in his legs, and that provides catapult-like strength to propel balls. He's got silver hair that's in ringlets like Roman emperors, and he has predator-like eyes which hone in on his target with incredible accuracy. Now, some of his achievements are 1956, the World Series, The Perfect Game by Don Larson. And this one is interesting, the switch hand pitcher versus the switch hitter. Pat Venditti had a nice little major league career as a switch pitcher. Interestingly, a few years ago, I was playing in a tournament in Arizona, and I was introduced to my catcher. I'm a pitcher, and I was introduced to my catcher. His name was Pat Venditti. I said, Pat Venditti? You're not Pat Venditti, the ball player's father. He says, absolutely, Pat's my son. Wow. I said, I love him. That's such a great story. Someone who can throw with his right hand and someone who can throw with his left hand. So I have a little clip here.
There's a right-hander. He's switching his glove again. 0 for 3. From what I understand, Venditti's father, when he was growing up in Nebraska. He's switching. What did he miss? How about this? Did he change sides again? He switched sides again. I've never seen anything like it. And now Venditti's coming to have a word, and he's upset about this. I mean, this has become a mockery through this year. He came up as a right-hander. But on deck, he was a lefty. And then he switched over. Well, it's okay if you're on deck as a lefty, but then when you get up there, if you switch, fine. But now that he's starting to go back and forth, righty-lefty, righty-lefty. And obviously, Venditti, after a while, thought, this isn't fun.
5 minutes later.
Out of the game, trailing at 7-2. Ralph Enriquez takes the first. Breaking ball swung on.
Who was that against?
And the third achievement that I highlight is last year's World Series with Yamamoto. And now is the point in the program where I would do a raffle, but since we have more prizes than folks, this is our raffle prize. It's a bottle of Ruth beer.
God, he
So
knows you.
hope you enjoy it.
Wow.
Okay, next we have the twin, who's the
I can put it in here.
named last. He is the baseball god of hitting. He's a powerful striker who wields his club with such devastating force that it can send spheres into orbit. He's very thick and muscular, and he has bulging muscles and his upper torso that makes the other gods jealous. His shaggy raven hair touched his shoulders, giving him the look of a biblical avenging angel. So some of his achievements and how he impacts the game. Of course, 1941 when Ted Williams hit 406 and Joe DiMaggio had his 56-game hitting streak. Then in 1998, the great home run race between McGuire and Sosa. And just last year, we had the battle between Aaron Judge and Cal Raleigh. Raleigh set a record of 61 home runs for a catcher, and Aaron Judge had a phenomenal MVP season. So those are some of the things that Blast has impacted the game. Our next god is actually a goddess. This is Vortex. She's the weather goddess, and she impacts games through weather. She originally had blonde hair like her mother, but she was a little bit rebellious and tempestuous, and she shaved half of her head and dyed the other half electric blue, and then she put henna dye around her eyes in circles so she would have an hypnotic effect. Some of her impacts on the game, in the 1952 World Series, which was before all of us, but Billy Lowe's was a pitcher for the Brooklyn Dodgers. I'm being kind. Billy Lowe's misplayed a ground ball, and he was asked about the play after the game, and he said he lost the ground ball in the sun. So that was Vortex at work. Next was the 1989 World Series, when she decided to inflict an earthquake on Candlestick Park and the Northern California area, and the World Series was delayed for 10 days. And then we have the unknown case of Ray Caldwell. In 1919, Ray Caldwell was a pitcher for the Cleveland Indians, and he was struck by lightning while he was on the mound in the 9th inning. There was 2 outs in the 9th inning. Lightning came, struck him. He collapsed on the ground. His head was smoking. And after about 5 minutes, he was resuscitated. And he said, "Give me the ball. I want to finish the game." And he finished the game. He got the last out. And oddly enough, 2 weeks later, he pitched a no-hitter. Now, the shortstop on that team was a fellow named Ray Chapman. And when the lightning struck, Chapman reported that he felt numbness in his legs. And apparently he was all right after that, except you may recall the name Ray Chapman. A couple of weeks later, he was struck by a pitch in the head, and he's the only major leaguer to die from action in a ball game. And it kind of reminded me of, there was a TV series where somebody escaped death, and then they think they're okay, and then they die in some other weird way. And maybe Vortex was really after Ray Chapman. But I've been asked, well, what motivates the baseball gods? And sometimes it's just because they want to be wise guys, or they're bored, so they want something crazy to happen. Sometimes they get insulted. One of the next baseball god is Schadenfreude. which is German for someone who delights in the misery of others. Well, one time a sports writer wrote about Vortex and Schaden and called them Bluster and Blister, and they didn't like that, so they gave him carpal tunnel syndrome, and they rained on his typewriter so he couldn't type anymore. But that's a story for another day. So our next baseball god is Schadenfreude. He's the god of freak injuries, and you know him. You know, he's constantly in the news. He delights in placing sharp objects in the way of ball players. One of the strangest and almost comical, as long as it's not you, was John Smoltz once got burned while ironing his jersey. The problem was he was wearing it when he tried to iron it.
John Smoltz.
John Smoltz, the announcer, Hall of Fame pitcher, not the brightest light in the room. Also, David Price, when he was pitching for the Red Sox, reported that he couldn't play a game because he hurt his wrist playing video games. I think it was more that he was supposed to pitch against the Yankees and he kind of chickened out. And also these injuries can be weird because last year Dustin May, a pitcher for the Dodgers, tore his esophagus when eating a stalk of broccoli, and he had to go to the emergency room. So Schaden has a lot of interesting things. In 2023, during the World Baseball Classic, Edwin Diaz, who signed a $61 million contract with the Dodgers this year, Edwin Diaz tore his patella tendon while jumping around on home plate celebrating the fact that Puerto Rico beat the Dominican. Our next is Dave Trevecchi, one of the most tragic instances of Schaden's mischief. Dave Trevecchi was a pitcher with the San Francisco Giants.
Dave Trevecchi's baseball comeback was inspirational. Last October, at the height of his career, doctors removed a cancerous tumor from his left arm, his pitching arm. It looked as if his baseball days were over. But after months of physiotherapy, after a few games in the minor leagues, Trevecchi was back, once again standing on the pitcher's mound for the San Francisco Giants. Then, last night in Montreal, in just his second game, there's the pitch, and Trevecchi falls over. Players say they heard a sharp flop, the sound of Trevecchi's arm breaking.
Trevecchi gives him a look. Here's the pitch to the plate, and it goes all the way to the screen. Trevecchi falls down and grabs his left shoulder, and he is hurting. Trevecchi is hurt badly.
When I was laying on the ground with a broken arm in Montreal, all I could think was, there is something bigger than baseball that's going on in my life.
Yeah, it's the baseball gods.
Right.
Okay, at this point we have our second raffle, and the winner is... Ta-da!
Ta-da! Well, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Enjoy it.
It will be displayed prominently at the house.
So our fifth and last baseball god is Coyote, and he gets his name. He's the youngest member of the Fungos. That's the family that has dominion over baseball, and they are secular gods. And I always thought that fungo was an interesting word, and I looked up its derivation. And fungo has several etymology explanations, but one of them that I ascribe to is that it comes from the Scottish word for toss. Now another one is the English word, the German word fangen, which means to catch. So when you think about fungo bats and catching fly balls, it comes from one of those words. So it's kind of interesting. Now Coyote is the god, baseball god of chaos. And he just likes to do crazy things. One of his crazy instances was the Pine Tar game, which I'm sure you remember. George Brett hit a home run in Yankee Stadium, and Billy Martin protested, saying he had pine tar too far up the bat, and disallowed the home run, and Brett went crazy.
No.
Next was in 1993, Jose Canseco went back to catch a fly ball. It clunked him on the head and bounced over the fence for a home run. And next happened in the NLCS last year, and this is crazy. And I'll let the video play, and then I might have to explain what happened.
And Muncie skies one to center field, hit well.
Bases loaded, 1 out.
Going back to the wall, he leaps. It's hit out of his glove, and he caught it. And now chaos on the bases. Might have a play at the plate. The throw, not in time. No, he's out. He's out. It's a four for 2. And Muncie skies one to center field, hit well. This one's got a chance. Freeland going back to the wall, he leaps. It's in and out of his glove, and he caught it. And now chaos on the bases. Might have a play at the plate. The throw, not in time. No, he's out. He's out. It's a forced play at the plate, and he is out.
So it's bases loaded, 1 out. Muncie hits a fly ball to deep center field. The fielder jumps up, deflects the ball off the wall, so it's safe. Then he catches it and throws it in. The runner from third, now because it's a live ball, it's a safe hit. The runner from third goes home, but it's a forced play, so even though the catcher didn't tag him, he's out. The runner at second base was Will Smith. He had no idea what was going on, so the catcher ran to third and got the force at third base. And it was ruled an 8-6-2 ground out double play. And that's quintessential Coyote.
Wow.
So that brings us to the last, actually he's not a baseball god, but he's Vigo Redstein. Vigo is short for vigorish, and he's a demon bookie. And he plagues the game in many ways. He has a physique like a street corner mailbox. He appears actually shorter than he is because he wears old-fashioned double-breasted suits with pleated pants. Given his unkempt condition, he's more apt to be described as a dumpster. And he has an unlit cigar protruding from his mouth, and he's the god of gambling. He's not quite a god. I don't know if he's a demigod like in Sandlot, where he's like Hercules. He's more than a man but less than a god. But Vigo Redstein is a character in my book, and his famous achievements, of course, were the 1919 Black Sox scandal, the lifetime ban of Pete Rose, and more recently, the arrest and indictment of Emmanuel Clase and Luis Ortiz for fixing pitches that were being bet upon. And they go on trial in May of this year. So Vigo continues to have a tremendous influence on the game. Okay, that brings us to our game. It takes place in Hot Springs, Arkansas. And Hot Springs, Arkansas is an amazing wealth of baseball history. There's the historic baseball trail that depicts various events that occurred in Hot Springs. And we're fortunate to have with us Tim Reed, who is one of the creators of the baseball trail. And thanks so much for coming, Tim.
Oh, thank you.
I appreciate your expertise and friendship. One of the neat things, this sign, I know it's hard to read, but it memorializes Babe Ruth's home run in 1918 when he was with the Red Sox. He hit a ball 573 feet out of the stadium, across the street, into an alligator farm. And the alligator farm is still there. And you go there and there are pictures and the owner will say, yeah, let me show you the pond number 2 where Babe Ruth hit a home run. So that's pretty cool. And
Where's the ball?
I'm sorry?
What happened to the ball?
Gun. I think it's in some gully.
It's still flying.
But spoiler alert, in my book, he's in Hot Springs, and coincidentally, at that time, there was an ostrich farm. So Babe hits one out of the park into the ostrich farm, and you have to read the book to find out what happens to the ball. But this is a mural outside the convention center. They have an annual baseball weekend every year, and they invite Hall of Famers. I got to meet Johnny Bench and Goose Gossage and a couple of other Hall of Famers, so it's a cool place to go. It's hot as blazes there in the summer, but you know, so is North Carolina where I live. So the game takes place in Hot Springs, and you say, well, you know, how does this game take place? Well, it's a game between Al Capone and his All-Stars and Babe Ruth and the Bustin' Babes, hence my shirt. But they get involved in an argument over a lovely young singer named Celeste. And in order to resolve their differences as to who's going to get the exclusive right to woo Miss Celeste, they embark upon a baseball game to be held in Hot Springs. So Babe figures he's in good shape. He's able to draw from people who played him and barnstormed with him over the years for the Bustin' Babes. And one of his first recruits is Schoolboy Hoyt, great Yankee pitcher, and pitched in the 27, 26, 27 era Yankees. And another player Babe is able to recruit is a local Arkansan named Aaron Ward, who was a second baseman for the Yankees in the early 20s. He was traded at the end of 1926. An interesting aside, for those of you who are Lee Child Reacher fans, Lee Childs has Reacher use aliases of Yankee second baseman. And so one of his aliases as he's going, you know, roaming through the country is Aaron Ward. And so that's kind of a neat little aside. Babe sent telegrams to the people who were on his team and people who he barnstormed with, and he got a return telegram from Christina Gehrig, Lou Gehrig's mother. And she said, "You should be ashamed of yourself. My Ludwig is not going to play with criminals. How dare you?" So Babe had to recruit another first baseman, and he brings in Jimmy Fox, who was playing with the Philadelphia Athletics at that time. But Babe was still short of players, so he went to recruit players from the local minor league team, the Little Rock Travelers. The first player he gets happens to be a Hall of Fame catcher named Bill Dickey. Then he gets a fellow named Ezra Brighthorse, and Ezra was the cousin of a character in my previous book about Babe in Hot Springs, and unfortunately Ezra's cousin Yonah was killed in World War I, but Yonah introduced himself to Babe. He's a left fielder, and he plays the outfield for Babe. And you may not know, but Hot Springs is an incredible geothermic formation, and hence it gets its name Hot Springs. The early Native Americans went to the springs for the healing properties, and then in, I think it was about 1545, maybe 1645, don't hold me to it, the conquistador Hernando de Soto goes to Hot Springs and discovers it and claims it for the crown of Spain. Well, many years and generations later, he's got a son, a great-great-grandson named Hidalgo Soto. And if there's any connection and relationship to Juan Soto, I don't know, could be. So Babe still was short of players, so he decided to go to the Deep South to continue to recruit. And he recruits Satchel Paige. And this is such a great quote. One time, and he also recruits Cool Papa Bell. So here's this quote from Satchel. One time, Cool Papa Bell hit a line drive right past my ear. I turned around and saw the ball hit his ass sliding into second base. And Cool Papa Bell is just, there are so many great stories about him that he rang a bell while at a home plate, and he got to first base before anybody heard the ring. He was in a hotel, he turned off the light and was in the bed before it got dark. So he manned center field for the Boston Babes. And then they recruit another fellow named Silky Worms. He's a great infielder who has tremendous acumen as a fielder. So that completes Babe's team. And now we have the 9-to-lifers. I call them the 9-to-lifers because that was generally their prison sentence. So Al Capone recruits his team. His first recruit is manager John McGraw. John McGraw was quite a character. He was partners with, oh God, what's the bank's name?
The bank?
Wells Fargo.
Rothstein, Arnold Rothstein.
Oh, Rothstein.
He was partners with Arnold Rothstein in a pool hall in New York City. He ran a casino in Cuba, which I talk about in my prior book, Diamond Fever, Babe going down to Cuba and getting ripped off by McGraw and his shady shenanigans. Not a big fan. But he recruits a couple of guys from the Black Sox. Chick Gandil, who's the first baseman, and Eddie Seacott, who's the pitcher, one of the pitchers. Now, in 1903, McGraw was the manager of the Baltimore Orioles, and he decided that he wanted to sneak in a light-skinned black player named Charlie Grant, who was working in a hotel in Hot Springs. And he was playing for the hotel baseball team, and McGraw was in Hot Springs, and he said, wow, this kid is really good. I'm going to bring him on to my Orioles team, and I'm going to tell everybody he's a Cherokee Indian. And he passes him off, or tries to pass him off, as Chief Tokahama. And so now it's 23 years later, McGraw recruits Chief Tokahama, who still lives in Hot Springs, to throw out the ceremonial first pitch. Now his team is not complete, so he recruits gangsters from his gang, and one of them is Charlie Trigger Happy Fischetti. Charlie Fischetti got the name Trigger Happy because back then Tommy guns were just starting to become popular, and he just loved to shoot his Tommy gun. So they called him Trigger Happy. Next, we have left fielder Samuel Golfbag Hunt. He was a notable gangster, notable because he would hide his shotgun in a golf bag when he went out on a hit. So he's the left fielder. Then we have Lucky Luciano in center field, and you notice that the pictures of Luciano and Fischetti have their prison numbers. So when it comes to game time, those are the numbers they're wearing on their backs. They're not wearing number 7 or number 12, they're wearing their prison numbers.
That's great.
Unbelievable.
Next is Titanic Thompson. He was a well-known con man and a pitcher who had all sorts of tricks and used smoke and mirrors to get out. So one of the things that Babe and Al agreed to beforehand was that no pitcher could pitch more than 3 innings. So that's why they had to have extra pitchers. And Titanic Thompson was one of the pitchers, You know, Satchel Paige was one of Babe's pitchers, Schoolboy Hoyt, and then Babe was bringing up the rear, and Capone was pitching the last 3 innings for his team. But he still didn't have enough players for the 9-to-lifers, so he went to Sing Sing. This is an actual picture of a baseball team in Sing Sing in 1922. There was a very progressive warden at that time who believed that baseball in particular and sports in general would be helpful in rehabilitation. So Al Capone goes to Sing Sing to meet with the warden. I've dubbed it the Bars and Stripes Correctional League. And we had a logo made up for it. So, you know, I kind of have to admit a little, stealing a little bit from the film Major League where Charlie Sheen played for Cal Penal. So we have the Bars and Stripes Correctional League. Now, who does he recruit from the Bars and Stripes Correctional League? He recruits a couple of middle infielders. Ogden Smith is the shortstop, and Mitchell Wesson is the second baseman, and they form a double play combo, Smith and Wesson. He has Bullet Bob Mauser as the third baseman. Jobu Jensen plays right field, and Jobu, of course, from Major League. Don't drink